Okay, hey, welcome to another episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. Today we have a really fun review for you from CIGA Designs. They're a Chinese brand based out of Shenzhen, China, that produces, some really cool, stylish and original watches with impressive designs. I'd consider this type of watch, it's very unique. It's a wild card type of watch. So some key common characteristics in design language, you're looking for something that could be a wild card within your collection. You're going to really just want that standout or statement timepiece that trades versatility and timelessness for all-out style and peak design. This is their Series U Blue Planet, and it's a very unique take on just time telling and the passage of time in general. And this is actually the first Chinese watch to ever win at the GPHG, or the Grand Prix de Horologie de Genève. And this won the 2021 Challenge Award, and that's something to be excited about. So this is not the watch for everybody. You're not going to cross shop this watch against with much. Pretty much, if you're a watch lover and a watch collector, this could be something really cool for you. And honestly, most watch people will probably be more impressed by this than your very impressive, horologically significant, and timeless classic watch that you probably wear more as your everyday watch. And that's really interesting to me. And I know you guys have probably seen a couple of videos on this one already, but I'm still excited to share it with you because it's just a quirky, fun piece. And for me, as somebody that tries to be regular, within my local watch community, this is the type of thing that, and when it comes to like going to a watch meet and you're going to Schwarzkopf something, you're going to wear, a watch on each wrist. This is perfectly, like, this is the Schwarzkopf watch. Like, have this on your other wrist just for the absolute joy of wearing it, and all the interest and visual intrigue that it brings, while you have another thing that's meant for, main timekeeping. So with that said, let's zoom the camera out, get this piece in hand, and take a closer look. Okay, so here's the actual box that it comes in, CIGA design, and yeah, you can see the little award win. If I won an award, you better believe I'd have it on every little piece of memorabilia I could. But I did want to show this to you because it's very interesting. This is not a traditional watch, not a traditional watch box. Check this out. This feels more like something you would get at a museum, like as a take home. So you have the sleeve, it has the information here, but let's open this up. So this, it looks like, oh, it's a booklet, right? And to a certain extent, it is a booklet, because there's, some verbiage, some information. Here's a shot of the Earth in 2022. And, the future of the Earth as, of course, tides change and lower or rise. So I thought that was very interesting. And it's something that, again, it's just more than just a watch. Like, this is almost like it's an assignment, guys, and it's a fun one to kind of go down the rabbit hole and just check out the information as it's laid out. I mean, very cool, and you can see very universal, every different language to say that, hey, mankind only has one Earth, which is true. And as you open this, typically you would see the Earth there, because it would be here, and then the strap would be there, and then these are all kind of faux pages, and then you get into some of the timekeeping side in terms of the information, how to put the watch together, how to tell and set the time, and it honestly was pretty intuitive, so I don't think I'm going to go into anything like that. Then you see all these awards that CIGA Design has won, and I don't know, there's something that's very neat about that, and I like that it's just a bit of an experience. I know that a lot of brands do try to give you an experience on the wrist, definitely, with what they do. And I think the cool thing about CIGA Designs is they really give you more. I mean, obviously it's an experience on the wrist, but then it also is a bit of an experience in hand to behold as you open this piece and get to know it a little bit better. But let's go ahead and get to the main event here. They're a design shop, right? And this thing is designed to the highest levels. Look at that. Now, I know there've been other reviews and other reviewers have seen and checked out this watch, but there are some things that really stood out to me that I feel like a lot of folks didn't talk about. So I've given it a quick little dust off here. So I'm just going to start with that, and then of course we're going to get to the stuff that everybody covers. But one thing I really like is, so you have those rings, right? So there's the outer, when you're looking at the dial, there's the outer 12 o'clock hour ring, there's the inner minutes ring, and then there's that center disc that is the Earth at that particular angle, and then essentially that compass pointer is going to be pointing to the current time. Let me give it another quick wipe. Sorry about that. And that's going to be pointing, so right now as we look, you see the hour of 12 and basically the minute. So if that's 35 and that's 30, that's 31 basically, so it's 12:31 in the afternoon. So, or I should say, yeah, technically afternoon, because noon is 12 noon. So that actually is static. But what I really like, and it's something that other brands have used, and other brands who haven't used it can learn from, is the way that they did this. So it's completely black on these discs, but these are actually raised in terms of all the indexes, and then they have a brushing that captures the light. So it's going to catch the light in this very unique way. And yes, if it was painted, it would have been ultimately more legible, right? Because then it would have been static. It would have been black with white on top of it. And you're always going to see that, right? Versus here, you're going to see that depending on the way that the light hits it, you're getting like basically glowing, lit up glint reflection, right? And you can see how it, look at that. That's my own little sound effect, so that watch doesn't do that on its own without me. But you can try. Go ahead. Ah, good. Yeah. So, yeah, that thing, that was such a cool touch, right? For me, is that although there's a lot of information, technically it's not all on at the same time. And I think that's what makes this piece so captivating. And then you look at, of course, I mean, that center disc of the Earth, and it is a very non-traditional choice in terms of like the location. Of course, I'm a Westerner, right? I'm in the good old US of A, so I always think that the United States and North America is kind of the center of the map. But that's just because that's what we look at when we're studying the states when we're kids and we're growing up, right? So this was such a cool little angle off axis, and yeah, there's something just really nice. It's familiar, right? Because it's the Earth, but then it's also non-familiar because it's such just an interesting off-axis snapshot of the Earth itself and the globe. So I thought that was really neat, and it's just something that speaks to me. And I almost was kind of like, it would be cool if they released like different dials, essentially, that were different parts of the Earth, different snapshots for different locations. Like, if Grand Seiko can do a US special edition or a UK special edition, why can't you, CIGA Designs? Something to think about. Maybe do a US one where it's like, hey, we're going to be looking at that part of the map that we can recognize. And I'm sure folks who grow up in other spots, I mean, Africa, right? Biggest continent. You're going to have your own familiarities with the map. So that's something that I think is cool. And, as much as this is a very individual watch that doesn't have a lot of variations, I don't know. I think there is room for some variation within this just because it's just such a neat concept. So let me get into the details that you probably already, you might know. I mean, it's an award-winning watch. You know that it's not cheap. It's $899 for the stainless steel, or $1,099 or $1,099 in titanium. This is the titanium model, at least it says so right there. Titanium case, 3 atmospheres. You can see a really well decorated movement. It's unspecified. CIGA Designs, of course, just mentions it as their own movement because they did have to do all of the gear train changes to make sure that everything rotates in the way that it does, to where it all makes sense. This isn't just a case of they essentially just added some discs instead of hands, and everything works the same underneath. There's essentially different ratios that this is turning at to make everything make sense when you are reading it this way, which is really cool. And I'm sure there are much more advanced and in-depth channels than mine that can really cover the science behind it. For me, again, when I opened up that booklet, it was very intuitive, and for me, it was really easy to understand. So I don't want to overcomplicate it by trying to over-explain it to you guys. But if you do get one of these, there's tons of videos on YouTube about it. And then also there's the back of the book, which for me, as an average bro, I found very intuitive and easy to understand and read. So the movement itself, again, you can see very basic architecture. Looks, at least from this side, is going to look like an ETA clone, which I'm sure it probably is. And then what's interesting is, of course, all the changes, extra jewels and whatnot that they add to it. So the crown itself is and then also this is a bezel-less design, so there's no bezel. It's pretty much just a mid case, or you can even just call it a case because it's not in the middle because there's no bezel on top. And then there's the case back, which is display. You have this push-pull crown, which is unsigned, but I feel like a traditional signature, like you have here, Sega design on the tang buckle. That makes sense. I think, putting a CD there, I don't think that's going to make it any more desirable, but instead you do get some really nice tactile engagement with the forms that are there, so it makes it easier to turn and wind. This one is wound because I made sure to wind it when I set it, because obviously it's a little interesting to set, right? As you pull this out, essentially, and then you spin it, the globe is turning, and then this middle track, that inner track, is turning while the hours are stationary. And I'm glad they made the hours stationary, because that's something that we can all easily relate to. We all know 12 o'clock is 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock is 6 o'clock, 9 is 9, 3 is 3, right? So I'm glad that was fixated, and then everything else ended up being kind of what's in motion and moving and very, very dynamic by comparison to just a standard 3-hand watch. It actually also, I will say, it would have been nice if they would have had some type of sweeping seconds in here somehow, whether it be something underneath with a cutout that just has some motion. There's definitely motion here, but it's at a much slower pace, at a minute pace versus a second's pace. So your eye is going to see this normally as something that is static looking, and it doesn't have that life that you normally get when you're wearing, of course, mechanical timepiece. It's really great to have that smooth sweep seconds. And then, even if you had it in quartz, it'd be nice to have a little tick in there just to have that connectivity that your watch is alive and it's doing its job. But it's fine, because honestly, there are some great mechanical watches that don't have a seconds hand that, really forgo that and for design, but instead it's more of design and it being a dedicated dress watch versus this. It's a dedicated just showpiece and kind of museum worthy collectible almost. So it has a 46 millimeter diameter, and that's all the way around. So it's when you think about how this is going to wear, you think 46 is too big. It's not, in the same way that big 55 millimeter tunas from Seiko can fit on somebody's wrist because they have pretty much hidden lugs, right? Or very short lugs. Here, you're going to the next level. You have a hooded lug, so the lug actually tucks underneath. So this is going to be even all the way around. And when we get to wearing it, you'll see that it wears absolutely fantastic on the wrist. But I do have a larger wrist, but it'll be fine on a smaller wrist as well, because you got to think the lug to lug is really there. So if 46 is too big for you lug to lug, then you probably have a very small wrist, number one, and you probably wouldn't be interested in this anyway. Well, 46 lug to lug is normally something you'd find on maybe a 38 millimeter watch. So 38 to 40, I would say, and anything beyond, you start getting above 48 millimeter at the lug, then you start considering it more long. Actually, I'd say maybe over 50 millimeters. Then you can start calling it a longer lug. So this is well within that at 46 millimeters all the way around. And then it has a 15 millimeter thickness. mineral display case back versus the sapphire that's on top. That's double dome, so of course at harsh angles still very legible, and there's a lot to enjoy and to see with the globe there. So I'll try to move it a little slower. Somebody's gonna say, ew, just move the watch too fast, I couldn't look at it. So you could press pause, or you could put it in slow motion, but some of you are probably put in fast motion because this is a long review. This in-hand portion, I've just been talking away. And honestly, I think that's one of the superpowers of this watch, is that it's such a conversational piece. Because it's, one, controversial, and that it's so different, and then two, it's just honestly like a really cool looking thing. I mean, you think about when you're a little kid, you pick up, you know, stones or seashells at the beach, and how much time you spend looking at those and talking about those, and that's just nature, right? And then you get a similar kind of thing as an adult here. You pick this up, and there's just a lot to think about and discuss, and some of it might be, yeah, I don't like this, it looks terrible, why would somebody wear that, it looks like a movie prop. Yeah, it does. Could you not just see this on somebody's wrist in a movie? Like, this is absolutely looks like somebody's home corresponder. So with that said, let's actually get this on the wrist to see how it wears and put it in a movie here. Oh yeah, check it out. So on my 7.5-inch wrist, you can see it wears fine, and it really sits well on the wrist as well, surprisingly. And even if I get it really up close, a lot of lens distortion, so now it's looking like it's really pushing to the outer edges of my wrist. You can see that that's not really the case. So even if you see somebody's pictures on Instagrams, you know, be weary, because if they were to just put the watch a little further away from themselves and then zoom in a little bit, make it a little tighter, you'd be able to see that it actually is pretty well centered. And the strap on here is like super comfortable. It's this rubber fluoride strap. Don't ask me where that came from, but it's nice. I'm surprised more people aren't using this material. Because one, it's not super dusty. It's very nice. Has this kind of matte finish to it. But it's very comfortable and very, very pliable. And look at that. I just love so many different blues you're going to see when you look at this. And that's one thing I appreciate my lighting situation here for showcasing, is that, you know, depending on the light that you get, it's not like the sea is just going to be a solid blue like you're going to see here. It's very dynamic. So as much of this is just very still, the nice thing is the color play on the blue, and then of course as you're looking at the indexing, all really plays and moves and has so much life to it, which I really enjoy. So with that said, let's actually get this off the wrist and get some, we're not going to do lume shots because there's no lume, but we'll get into low light transition and closing thoughts. Okay, let's go ahead and hit the lights here. Yes, so you can see my little off-camera lighting. Let's look at the depth and the detail on those land masses. Check that out. Look at the way the light and the blue, you can see a shimmer, a little bright blue fading into that dark midnight. Very cool. And then again, of course, the outer tracks there playing with the light in different ways, reflecting. Look at that. Now it's kind of all dark. Very cool. But yeah, I like to do these low light transitions because you're not always going to be out in the middle of a field enjoying direct sunlight, right? A lot of times you're going to be coming, oh, look at the depth on that. So cool. You know, coming in and out of buildings, walking underneath overhangs, you know, you're in your car, you're going through a tunnel, you know, so you're not always going to be out in studio lighting that's, you know, meant to mimic, you know, perfect daylight. So it's nice to see how these colors, textures, and finishes render in less than optimal lighting and probably more realistic lighting, to be quite honest. So you can see there the light is gliding around that case, brushing really nicely. The machining is just immaculate on those indexes, the way they're catching the light, and then the sheen on that blue earth. My goodness, look at that. It's definitely, there's something that's very, very peaceful and tranquil. I was finding the right word there about this watch. It's definitely different. It's not, again, like, yeah, I get it. You're not cross shopping this against a Hamilton khaki field or, a Seiko turtle, or Tissot PRX. Let me just say names of watches everybody loves. What's next? Rolex. So there's watches that everybody loves, and then there's this, which is something that I don't think everybody is going to love, but I think it is such an interesting piece, and not cheap. At $10.99, it's $1,000. Like, do you want spend $1,000 on a novelty? I think you could, and then if you don't want to, you can always spend $8.99. And I'm pretty sure I saw all types of deals in terms of like X percentage off if you just like sign up for newsletters. So check those out. But yeah, this isn't going to be somebody's one watch. Like, don't give this to your dad for Father's Day, or your son who's graduating from college. Like, this is not that type of watch. I mean, unless he's graduating from astronaut school, then he'll probably own a Speedmaster, and then this could be his second watch. But anyways, this is a cool one. On the wrist, it wears like a lugless Seiko Tuna. It wears surprisingly well considering that diameter at 46 millimeters. In terms of model variants, yes, it is available in stainless steel at a reduced cost. And I do think that there is a market to just do different snapshots of the Earth with maybe even different color palettes. I do like the more muted kind of, hey, you have the silvery tones and whatnot. It looks really cool, but hey, I mean, you drop a little green, like, it could be pretty cool if they did some variations. So not that I think they will, but hey, if you're listening, Siga Designs, maybe. And then I wouldn't even have comparable models to this. Are there other models that focus on Earth as the dial? Absolutely. Or planets in general? Yes. But honestly, like, this is such a unique and specific type of watch. I wouldn't really venture to have any comparables, but if you guys have any, please leave them in the comments below. For me, this is just, in bottom line, it's an awesome wildcard watch that will mesmerize your loved ones and honestly be a welcome companion to any local watch related meetup. Like, this is totally that funky, weird watch, and yeah, it does kind of look like a movie prop. And if somebody ever asks, you can tell them, yeah, no, totally, this is a morpher, and you get ranger powers through it. It looks cool. It's just different, man. I dig it. Surprisingly so. Like, I thought the concept of itself was very interesting, but I have to say, what really kind of won me over is this thing in the metal, and just the nuance and the play of light, and just how dynamic it is for something that's really technically sitting pretty still when you look at it. So with all that said, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you like the video, please do it like, and if you haven't already, please subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.